Why we've been so intoxicated with wars, why we've been so intoxicated with all these protests at these schools, which we're going to talk a little bit about, there's something else that's taking place. We're going to talk about 4 bills. We're going to talk about the TikTok ban. We're going to talk about the fact of the new anti-Semite law. We're also going to talk about the omnibus a little bit more. And then we're also going to talk about the spending bill with no border in it. They take away from your freedom. And I'm going to show you how. These big bills, they put more and more in. It is actually taking away from your rights. And we're going to go through all 4 of them right now because they're all open-ended. They're all meant to say, oh, this is good stuff. It's keeping you safe online. It's keeping us safe worldwide, funding all these people. It's keeping us safe from hate. We don't want any group persecuted against. They leave them all open-ended because those regulatory and those regulations can be interpreted a lot of different ways, and we're going to talk about it today. Let's jump into it. Today's video starts right now. Hey guys, welcome to the Max. Thank you so very much for being here today. If you are new to the channel, go down here, press subscribe, ring the bell, give us a thumbs up or a thumbs down, that's okay, but let us know what you think about this content of today's video, but also our channel. Our goal is to grow our channel. The only way to grow is for you to share it and also to give us a thumbs up. It tells the overlords here that, hey, he has a good message and we want people to hear it. So comment below, tell us what you think about it. Now, before we start, I'm wearing my Ole Miss shirt. I actually am not a big Ole Miss supporter. I don't deal with collegiate sports too much, but I thought it was kind of great that all these liberal areas and these liberal campuses and these colleges were literally burning down, getting destroyed. And all of a sudden they tried to pull this protest at Ole Miss yesterday, and it was completely overran with the fact that there was people there that were showing their conservatism, showing their patriotism, and showing what freedom really looks like. So kudos to Ole Miss and Mississippi. Way to represent, by the way. And I think Alabama's doing the same thing. Now let's talk about the serious issues, because we've been distracted with all this protest, and it is serious. I'm not saying it's not serious, but I do think yesterday was kind of funny with Ole Miss versus UCLA and Columbia and all that garbage. But let's talk about these bills. First, let's talk about what I mean by how these 4 bills are actually bad for conservatism, bad for freedom, bad for really liberty and whole. Especially as us that are freedom-minded, people that try to live sustainable. I mean, look, I have a garden that's coming up great. I've hogs sitting here. I've got ducks on the pond. I've got chickens over there that won't hush while I'm filming. I got other pigs over here and cattle. It's freedom. And when we provide that freedom, it scares our overlords. It scares the regulatory body. It scares these politicians. Now, these 4 laws, let's just kind of go through them. First, let's just start with the omnibus bill. Now, let's take out the part that is just way overspending. We do not have the money to fund our government the way it is. We are too bloated. We have too much under the umbrella of quote-unquote government, and we have too many people that are actually on the government dole. That's a problem in itself. You can go back and read the omnibus bill. There are some crazy things in it. Tons of pork that your Republicans, your conservatives, your Democrats all let through. Now, one thing in there was cattle tracking. Cattle tracking is a big deal. Now, I got away from doing registered herds a long time ago. Actually, I have registered bulls. I have registered cattle. But I quit registering their lineage. I quit registering the sale of them, the buy of them, because the more that we register our animals, the more those registries may be used in other forms and fashion. Well, part of that omnibus bill, and Thomas Massey brought great attention to it during that time, was there was looking for ways to register basically your farm animals, your livestock. The problem with that is that means someone has a say in how many animals you can or can't have. Someone has a say in how you're raising animals. Someone has a say in the fact that if you want to raise your own food or have to buy it. That's a big deal. This week alone, Bill Gates, of course, he always comes out and says something, but this week he came out and again was pushing against emissions, how 6% of emissions is all caused by cows. What is unbelievable is these same people ride on private jets. They ride all over the world preaching their garbage, and then ultimately I imagine their carbon footprint of their private jets, and also jets as a whole, also the movement of their companies as a whole. I think of AI generation and how much energy it pulls that Microsoft is doing and Bill Gates is pushing. How much emissions is that? So they don't talk about that because that's their agendas. They talk about the cows, which is going to give sustainable life to us. So part of that bill that was passed was registering animals. That takes away from our freedom, and that's a big deal. So that's the number one bill. Let's talk about the second one, the TikTok. Now, tons of Republicans and conservatives were like, oh, yes, TikTok is bad. It is bad. I don't have TikTok. I don't look at TikTok. I don't allow my staff to tie into our wireless and look at TikTok. I don't want TikTok around my family because they project really stupid entertainment, and to be honest with you, it doesn't do anything for me. Really, if I'm trying to get something out of the world, I don't believe we need to look to TikTok for news or for deep thinking in 40-second clips. But I digress. The problem I have with this ban, though, is it's open-ended. It is very open-ended. It allows for maneuvering to say, you know what? Yes, we don't want China in here. We already have laws against foreign agents in America. So that should have been handled through other laws. But again, we want to make new laws to cover old laws. And that makes no sense, by the way. And that's exactly what our politicians do all the time. We have so many laws on the book that I imagine you break a law of some sort every day. Not on purpose, because there's so much precedent, so much law, so much case law, so much common law, so much regulatory bodies that you can't help but break them. But anyways, we want to make more law. So this TikTok ban, the problem I have with it is, yes, should China own a part of TikTok? Probably not. But that shouldn't happen in the first place, and we should have made sure we handled that on the front end, not on the end after they've grown exponentially. Secondly, if this law was wrote up to divest TikTok, that means they are saying, as a business, we have more power and authority to make your business sell. Now, it wasn't just because of China, it was just because of the business, and they were scared of the intellectual property. They were scared of the fact of, you know, what information they're getting from us, what surveillance they're getting from us. At the same time, the same group of individuals and politicians in Congress passed the fact that they can now warrantless surveil you under the FISA warrants, and that's okay. But we can't allow China to do it, but we can do it. Isn't that funny? So it's kind of a double standard there. But now they're making them divest. So what they're saying is this business is too big and they cannot have this foothold. What about this? Do you know our pork industry, our beef industry, is not owned by hardly any Americans anymore. It's mostly owned by China. So we're worried about the entertainment, but what about our food system? We're not making them divest there. Now, I wouldn't want them to, but what I'm saying is, why are we worried about just the entertainment side, just something that could possibly sell and bring more propaganda, because that's what TikTok does. It programs us, but we're not worried about the food system. We're not worried about the Chinese coming in and buying our land. You know, they're buying their farmlands, they're buying our properties, they're buying our ports. Well, we're not worried about that. We're worried about TikTok. So that's the first problem. Second problem is, what if all of a sudden the government says, well, this bill allows us to have precedent to where, you know, Tesla's too big. We've got to sell some of the assets. I mean, one person should not own this. It's called socialism and communism. What if all of a sudden they say, well, SpaceX is too big. Elon Musk owns too much of that. We've got to divest that. What if, Amazon is too big. He's gotten too powerful, so we've got to divest that. What if this, whatever, Republican is too big, and we got to divest that. What if Trump has too much power with Truth Social? We've got to divest that. It allows precedent to be set that government can state how something is structured as in business. Who owns it? Who doesn't own it? Don't tell me it's just about China, because again, they're in our food system, they're on our ports, and they're in our farmlands. But then we're worried about the entertainment. What it does is it allows probably for some liberal person to probably buy TikTok, and then all of a sudden they've got another propaganda wing to use against maybe conservatives. Thirdly, it goes without saying, we talked about the spending bill with the foreign aid bill is what they call it, when it went to Ukraine and Taiwan and Israel. Now, I'm not against helping folks, but I believe we should be looking at loans versus giving. I think we should look at coming to the table and building treaties versus bringing more war, because that's basically what we're doing. The problem I have with this is conservatives never stand their ground. They talk a big talk, but they never truly do what they're supposed to do. Remember, that bill hurts us because it's taking tax dollars of ours and sending them all over. Also, if you look at the kickbacks from these lobbying firms for passing that bill, you can go on the internet and find where these people made all this money. That's a problem. That's a problem. And so it allows for really kickbacks to our politicians. Kind of like we just talked about with McCall, this Republican who was on the intel dealing with the fact that they're going to look at passing this bill where TikTok will be divested. All of a sudden he invested in Facebook. He invested in Facebook prior to TikTok being banned, because he knew that if TikTok was banned or it was divested or people had to move to another place, they were going to probably go to the Reels of Instagram and Facebook and Meta. And he put millions of dollars into them right before that happened. Just a little insider trading there, isn't it? So we see 3 bills so far that has caused problems for really freedom and liberty. Now let's talk about the 4th one, because it may be the biggest. Now the 4th bill with this anti-Semitism bill that is now bipartisan. It's meant for freedom. It's amazing. In 2024, do you know how many bills we have like this of freedom of rights, freedom of expression? That's the First Amendment. However, hate speech and hatred against a group of individuals is already illegal. We know that. What this bill does, though, and this is where you got to look at the fine writing. Who actually says what being anti-Semitic actually means? It's never labeled in the actual bill. It's never done by the Congress or by the president. It's done by an organization, and you can look it up. It's a Holocaust organization, and I think it's like the IHRA or something like that. You know who's over that body? 35 other countries, including America, and also they're tied to the UN, tied to the WEF. So now we're allowing laws to be wrote for definition of what this law actually stands for to actually be regulated by 35 country group instead of our own lawmakers. We are just giving this passed the House now, and with a ton of Republican support. It's saying we're going to show that, you know, we don't need to hate against people. We already have laws like that. But what you're doing now is you're giving this quote-unquote law, what sets precedent for this is decided by a group that's not even American. Isn't that unbelievable? Should we have hate for people? No. But it should not be set. Our policies in America, for American culture, for American people, for the freedoms of America, should not be set by a global group of countries. 35 countries set this policy, but see, you don't hear that. Also, if you look at some of the fine writing, it really could come down to where they could use this against Christianity. They could use this against other faiths to say, you know what? Yeah, yeah, we as Christians, we believe, and this is the truth. This is what we believe as Christians, and for most of you that are Christian and Christ followers, you would say the same thing. We believe our Bible says that, yes, we all basically put Christ on the cross. We were all the ones who crucified him because we were sinners, and now we are, of course, if we're saved, we've come and repented of that, and he died for our sins. However, the truth is, Romans Pilate did not actually say, hey, we didn't do anything to Jesus. He did nothing wrong. The Jews brought him back up. Of course, the rest of the story is he was crucified and, of course, was raised from the dead because he is the proven risen Savior. Now, but the problem is this. Parts of this law could actually say, you know, that's illegal to say now. That's wrong to say. You can't say that Jesus was hung on the cross in that area by that group of people. That could be anti-Semitic. You cannot say that as a Christian. You cannot use parts of the Bible. We have to, hey, that's a little, we're going to set precedent that could be illegal. So we see in the banning of parts of the Bible. Now people say, oh, Colby, that's crazy. They were just trying to stand up for the Jewish people. We already have laws for that. As conservatives, as a Christian, I do support the people of Israel. I do support the Jews because that is part of what we believe in with Jesus. The area of Israel is special to every group of individuals. You know, we talked about that with the red heifer situation and how the part of Jerusalem and the part of Israel is so important to several religions, especially Christianity. And we support Israel. However, this law does not do the right thing. And you have people like Johnson, you have people like all these Republicans and even Democrats who are signing on to this, and we're allowing a different group of people to set policy in America to say what's wrong and what's right, which is terrible. And again, very tyrannical to say we need more regulation to do the same thing that's already done. That's like us passing along saying, well, look, you cannot stab someone right now. You can't do that. You cannot stab someone now. We already have laws. You can't criminally hurt someone, you can't kill someone, you can't murder someone. We already have laws against that. But no, we want to make a secondary law just in case. That's overregulation. And then what we're saying is, well, then we're going to allow the UN to decide if you are guilty or not. That's basically what we did. We're saying, okay, this law is so important that Americans can't even decide what the definition of this law actually means. It's a group of individuals that are not part of America can decide what this law actually means and if you are breaking it or not. Well, most of those countries don't support Christianity. So what if all of a sudden they use it against Christianity? This could be the signs of some major persecution coming to Christians that I think a lot of conservatives are missing, and we could seriously see a problem. Just like we did with the TikTok, just like we did with the other bills that we talked about, there's a double standard sometimes built into these laws, and it's very open. Everything is always open because then they can interpret it the way they want to interpret. And then bam, they can set new law, new tyrannical views, new mentalities to control you. So why is it important? Why is it important to say no to all these bills? You know why I'm against politicians going to Washington all the time and full time? All they're doing is giving us more regulation. Because we already had the Constitution. We already had the Bill of Rights and even the few amendments that were originally wrote. That's all we needed. When we start adding thousands upon thousands upon thousands of pages of new bills that no one reads, don't you think some of this will come back and bite us? Do we need new policies on any of this? No. I am libertarian enough to say all the law that we actually needed was pretty much established. The more and more that we're putting laws on the books, the more and more controlled you're going to be. And like this last bill, it gives control to a foreign entity, not even to Americans. These other bills gives power to the government to oversee maybe your technology, maybe what you can or can't see, maybe your business size. All that plays into it. Definitely your money. So let's just, next time we see all these new bills and all these new things they're going to pass, sometimes we should just wake up and say, quit passing bills. I just want you to do nothing. Like me, I actually like lame duck Senate and lame duck Congress, lame duck presidents, because they get nothing done. And to be honest with you, sometimes that's good, because the more they get done, it actually brings more persecution and more hard times for most Americans because they put more regulation on us and spend our money that we don't have. Give me your thoughts. Am I wrong or right? Hey, again, kudos to the schools that are standing up against this crazy propaganda and this crazy situation with these bought, paid for activists and protesters. Keep standing up, and I love to see it in these conservative areas doing it. It shows the difference in how they're tearing school slap up in all these liberal areas and then hanging new flags of a different country, but then in the South, the conservative areas, the conservative states, it ain't happening. Guys, thank you so much for watching. God bless. Happy homesteading, y'all.